Mid-Michigan winters can be brutal. Will this season be as unforgiving? Mid-Michigan Now presents the Storm Ready Weather Winter Survival Guide, sponsored by Holland Heating and Cooling.
Welcome everyone to the Mid-Michigan Now Storm Ready Winter Survival Guide. I'm Chief Meteorologist Erik Kostrzewa, alongside meteorologist Leslie Toldo and forecaster Ron Hilliard. We have a lot of helpful information to make sure you are storm ready this winter, so let's get started. Now, as we have had already plenty of alert days throughout the spring and the summer months, but they're going to be a little bit different as we go into the winter. Now, we usually issue a alert day to get you ready for anything from snow to ice to wind.
If a day comes up that could be impactful to you and an alert day is issued, it is likely we have one of these three alerts across our area. If an advisory is in place, a few inches of snow or light coating of ice is possible, but it is not likely to cause major issues to our everyday lives.
The same cannot be said about a watch or warning, and these two are likely when we will issue a storm ready alert day, as the possibility of school closings, travel delays, and even power outages are possible from the severe winter weather conditions.
Thank you, Ron. Yeah, the season ahead will feature a likely La Niña pattern, a moderate La Niña pattern, which you may have heard of just as recently as last year. But now, does this mean our winter will be exactly the same as last year? Well, not quite, but it could feature some similarities. To discuss this season, I talked with the National Weather Service out of White Lake to hear more.
We say that La Niña typically will bring a wetter period for the winter through the Great Lakes, but it's important to remember that every La Niña is different.
While the general thinking of La Niña is to have warmer but wetter conditions, some La Niñas have been the complete opposite. The majority, of course, will fall in line with the usual, which is the thought of how this season will be.
Start with temperatures. Typically for La Niña, we don't lean one way or another based on the previous La Niñas we've seen. There's no strong preference for above or below normal. And typically with La Niña, we see a more active jet stream pattern, which can favor cold air outbreaks. It can favor warm streaks. And these can come and go throughout the season, which is more typical during La Niña.
The cold and warm stretches may not necessarily be predictable at this point on when they will occur, but it's pretty certain that they will occur. If a warm stretch of weather happens in December, just know that colder and potentially snowier weather will soon follow. Even with it being La Niña or even El Niño some years, overall, our winters in Michigan have been
warmer, wetter, and snowier. That's been the trend over the past 10 years, and basically all of our sites across the area are trending that way, so we can expect that for this year as well.
The entire year across the area has been much drier than average, which is why we have not been able to kick the abnormally dry or even drought conditions. But could La Niña help us out with that as we move into 2023?
With La Niña, we typically will see higher than normal precipitation. Probabilities lean that way usually during a La Niña season, so that would actually favor for removal of the drought.
And for the winter season, our new normals as of 2021, we got new normals for 1980 to 2010, or should I say 1990 to 2020. The old averages were 1980 to 2010. We are now looking at an average of about 52 inches of snowfall for the city of Flint. For Saginaw, it's on the order of 49 inches of snow. This is about 4 to 7 inches higher than that previous 30-year average. So we could be talking about a truly snowy season if La Niña does pan out like it usually does. Ron?
And Eric, chances are your heater is now on, and like most things, energy costs are on the rise. Consumers Energy is planning to increase rates by nearly 6%, meaning customers will pay nearly 30% more than last year. Dan Scripps, the chair of the Michigan Public Service Commission, says there are several reasons for the increase.
I think a lot of that is still sort of unwinding some of the lingering effects from the pandemic, as well as particularly in the gas case, seeing the impacts of the Russian invasion in Ukraine. We're supplying a lot more liquefied natural gas to external markets through exports, and that puts a crunch on sort of the prices here at home. And unfortunately, we're seeing that being reflected in customer bills.
For anyone struggling to deal with rising utility costs, you can reach out to 211 for assistance programs. Holland Heating and Cooling Jeff Lee says the most important thing you can do to make sure your furnace is ready for winter is change your filter. Some need to change them monthly, while others only need to be replaced once a year. Lee says you may even need to replace your furnace if it's about 15 years old, as older furnaces are less efficient and potentially dangerous.
Older furnaces can produce carbon monoxide, which is the silent killer, as we all know. Having that happen is detrimental, but in the meantime, before that happens, you can look at changing your furnace to save $300, $400, $500 a year minimum on your gas usage.
Lee recommends putting carbon monoxide detectors in or around your bedroom, and at least one for each level of your home.
All right, Ron and Eric, and you at home. I have our first winter health quiz question of the show. True or false? The viruses like COVID, the flu, and colds are more common in the winter because the cold air makes us more susceptible to infections. The answer? Coming up.
Now back to the Storm Ready Weather Winter Survival Guide.
Before the break, we had our first quiz question. True or false? Viruses like COVID, the flu, and colds are more common in the winter because the cold air makes us more susceptible to infections. Guys, what's your answer?
I think it's true.
Leslie, I'm going to go with false. I think it might be a trick question.
All right, to tell you the truth, it is false.
Okay.
It's not so much the cold air. The cold air drives people inside, but the cold air doesn't impact our immune system. It's just that more people are inside in close quarters.
Makes sense.
And that's why.
Good job, Ron.
You've got a couple more quiz questions.
Okay, I'm going to get one of these.
Well, there is a huge risk that we face from the cold air, and that is a potentially deadly condition, hypothermia. It happens when your body loses heat faster than it can produce heat, lowering your body temperature. Normal body temperature is roughly 98.6 degrees. Hypothermia happens when it drops below 95 degrees, and this is all caused by prolonged exposure to cold air. When your body temperature falls, your heart, nervous system, and other organs don't work normally, which is why hypothermia can be deadly. The CDC says there are several symptoms that you want to watch for, and the first one is going to be shivering, and that's pretty obvious. We shiver when we're cold. Now, not all shivering means hypothermia, but confusion is another one. This can include memory loss, difficulty speaking is another one. You want to look for slurred speech, sleepiness from being drowsy to sheer exhaustion, and stiff muscles. You may have fumbling hands, and hypothermia is a medical emergency, meaning you need to get help if you suspect it's happening to yourself or to someone else. The things you can do are removing wet clothing, wrapping your body in blankets, drinking warm beverages, and taking a warm bath to try to raise your body temperature. Now, when the mercury drops, we will do anything to stay warm, especially if we are working outside or playing outside. And there are a few wardrobe choices that could just help you stay comfy in the cold. If you're going to spend a little time out in the winter chill, there's one phrase to keep in mind: layer up. It helps regulate your body temperature.
I recommend that you don't just put on, like just a snowsuit and think that's going to be okay, because what happens when you get too hot, you don't have anything to take off. So, trying to put in layers where, if you get too warm, you can unzip your jacket, you can unzip a vest or something like that. It allows you to breathe a little bit more, but still keep you insulated.
But Brad Brown of Complete Runner says before you even put on that first layer of warmth, there is another phrase that should be top of mind.
We like to always say cotton is rotten, and that goes for socks, which a lot of people don't know, but that can also go to the layers that you have on. Cotton is going to trap all that moisture, and it's going to get heavy, it's going to get wet, and that's going to make you cold.
There is one fabric you should seek out for your first layer. Itchy reputation aside, wool should be your go-to.
Wool is fantastic to be right next to the skin. It's not going to chafe, it's antimicrobial, and it's going to really regulate that body temperature. So it's something that you would want right next to that skin.
There are plenty of lightweight, thin wool choices available for that first layer. When it comes to the second, again, pay attention to what it's made of.
You know, you can do like a poly blend. You know, if it's insulated, it could be, you know, down. It could be a lot of these synthetics that they make that are alternatives to down. But something that's really going to kind of insulate. It's not going to absorb water. It's not going to weight you down or leave you cold.
Choose that third or top layer wisely. Again, fabric makes all the difference. You want something water resistant that will protect you from more than just the cold temperatures.
Is it raining? Is it really windy out? That can stop all of that kind of going through. And then, you know, it adds as like an envelope for that core layer. So it traps all that heat in.
Don't forget your feet. Brad says if you add layers there, it could get you into a bind.
I wouldn't layer up too much on your feet, you know, such as socks, because the more layers that you add on there, the more possibility you have for that shoe not fitting anymore, because it's going to be too small with all those layers. Or, you know, the friction between all that stuff can actually cause some blisters.
Make the same fabric choices for your feet. And when it comes to your hands, you may wonder, gloves or mittens? It's a matter of personal preference, or...
Some of the gloves will actually have a mitten that folds over it, so you kind of get the best of both worlds.
Finally, make sure you protect your head. Get a good hat or even a face mask if you're tackling windy, blustery conditions. And here's the deal. Pets are at risk for hypothermia too. If it is too cold for you, it is too cold for them. Temperatures below 45 degrees are uncomfortably cold for pets. If yours don't live inside, make sure they have a dry, draft-free shelter that is large enough for them to sit and lie down in comfortably. The floor should be a few inches off the ground and covered with cedar shavings or straw. Avoid using blankets because they get and stay wet, especially after snowfall, which will actually make your pet even colder. Also, water bowls can freeze outside. If you can, try to get one that is heated and don't leave your pet in a cold car.
And it's going to be cold this winter as typically. And something that makes it colder, the wind. Now, the wind chill is a combination of the actual air temperature and the wind speed when it blows against exposed skin. What happens basically is when there's no wind, you feel like it's the actual temperature. So if the actual temperature is 20 degrees, that's what it feels like to your skin. But when there's wind, it blows the heat away from your body. Think of having a bowl of soup or a cup of coffee. A lot of times people will blow on it to cool it down. That's what happens to our body. So you can see if the actual air temperature is about 20 degrees and we have a wind of 20 miles per hour, it's going to feel like 4 degrees. Very cold out there. So you might want to bundle up and protect your skin. Now it's time for some more trivia. Leslie?
Quiz question number 2 is another true or false. The sooner after flu symptoms start that you can get to the doctor, the better, because your infection will clear faster with antibiotics just after symptoms start. The answer coming up. Quiz question number 2, true or false? The sooner after flu symptoms start that you can get to a doctor, the better, because your infection will clear faster with antibiotics just after symptoms start. Guys?
Yeah, I'm not buying that one.
Leslie, I'm going to go with another false.
Actually, it is false, and the only reason that is the case is because the flu is a virus, and antibiotics are not intended to treat a virus. They're for bacterial infections. But if you can get an antiviral drug in soon after your symptoms start, you're more likely to see that work.
Okay.
Now, the cold weather has made its return, and soon it will be the season of snowplows and salt trucks. Now, we always cross paths with them during the season, but you may not know how much truly really goes into getting them ready and keeping the roads clear, even in the worst conditions. We caught up with MDOT when the weather was still warm to see them in action with their preparation. While every season is different, for the men and women on the front lines of keeping us safe while on the road this winter, the intense preparation beforehand stays the same.
What we do is we go through, we get all of our trucks lined up, check all of our lights, blades, all that stuff. We run all of our routes. Any areas that we think we might have an issue, we try and take care of all that stuff before the weather starts to get bad. Obviously, we get our salt sand mixes, and all of our liquid chemicals for de-icing agents and all that stuff.
One of the biggest headlines across the area and the nation has been inflation and the economy. but MDOT says the department is fully staffed and has all the supplies needed to tackle the worst possible winter.
For us, it'll be pretty much business as usual. We might have a little hiccup here and there, but nothing that would ever be even noticed by the public. It would just be an internal thing.
With the extended warm stretch this fall, most construction projects that needed to be done before the snow started flying have finished. But some will continue into the winter, of course, weather permitting.
Depending on what they're actually doing, if it's temperature sensitive stuff, obviously we're going to have to pull the pin on that and we're going to have to put it on hold. If it's not, being that the Mother Nature's cooperated with us pretty well, so hopefully a lot of these things can get wrapped up.
Just like you and me, the road crews stay up to date with the weather every single day, but they have a couple of extra tools they use to prepare for an upcoming storm.
I can pull cameras from Wisconsin or on the west side of the state so I can see what's going on as the storm is coming across. So then that helps us over here to make a decision on our timing for our application treatments and bringing our staff in and how long we're going to work and when we're going to change our shifts.
When the snow begins and you have to drive in deteriorating conditions, these crews will be out there too. You can do one simple thing so everyone can stay safe and make it to their destination.
Please give the guys room, man. They're trying their best, and just give them a little room to do their job. They'll do what they do best and keep you guys safe.
Great advice. Even if the worst of the worst winters happens, MDOT says they are more than prepared with enough salt and enough crews to get us to spring, which hopefully comes sooner rather than later. Eric?
Thank you, Ron. Yeah, we are going to start with some precipitation types that you may see throughout the winter months. Now, we have all encountered snow and rain, but when it comes to sleet and freezing rain, the atmosphere above the surface gets a little bit different. And now snow is usually when you have that full freezing layer from the clouds to the ground. But once we start to get into some sleet and freezing rain, you have a little bit of that warm layer that melts the snow and it refreezes before it makes it to the surface, or with freezing rain, it makes it to the surfaces and freezes on contact. Now with rain, it's a little bit of a different story. We have that bigger warm layer. And as the weather continues to get colder and the ice begins to form, you may be one of those who sees this as the best time of the year, ice fishing, snowmobiling, but recently incidents of falling in have made headlines more than we would like. Now I want to give you some safety tips and show you if climate change in the area could be leading to more days with dangerous ice conditions. While no ice is across the area yet, all Michiganders know we are likely only a few weeks away from ice starting to form and snow starting to fall. When the ice does start to coat the lakes, there are a few things you should keep in mind to keep yourself safe before venturing out.
First and foremost, no ice is safe ice. We can't give you an inch thickness to determine ice safeness. But we do advise people, if they do want to go out on the ice, that they need to check it at the shore, and you can use that an auger or a spud to check the ice thickness. And keep in mind that it changes the further you travel around the ice. It could change within a few feet.
By no means should this keep you from having fun this winter on the ice. Just know there is always the chance it could break if you're not careful. If you do venture out, these things could save your life if you happen to fall in.
Obviously wear warm clothing, and most of the time, most winter clothing is semi-flotational. Ice picks. You can buy some at the store. You can make some. A lot of homemade ones are out there that would help you climb yourself up out of the ice if you do fall through.
If you do fall through, remain calm even through the shock of the cold water. Kick as hard as you can and try and crawl out. If you cannot get out, try to call for help. The best thing to always do before going out on your own is to
leave a plan with somebody that you know, so that they know where you're going and approximately what time they expect you to return. And if you can, travel with a buddy, so that there's always somebody there that could offer help, or at least go get help or call help if the event arises.
Always stay up to date with changing weather conditions, as this will have a huge impact on the ice thickness. Avoid warmer stretches, but also one particular weather phenomena that may surprise you: new snow. At the end of the day, the chances are low of you falling in, but it's always best to stay safe rather than sorry. With everything we mentioned here, of course, we always want to make sure you
have fun, but be safe at the same time. Constantly check the conditions.
And you can always check the conditions with us here on Mid-Michigan Now. Now, the National Weather Service says climate change, that is happening here in Michigan. We are continuing to warm, and this could mean less safe ice days than in the past. You can, as I mentioned, always check those conditions with our Mid-Michigan Now weather team, and we'll let you know if the ice is safe. Leslie?
Now for the third and final quiz question. It's a multiple choice. How long does it take for symptoms to start after COVID exposure? A, 12 hours to 5 days. B, 2 to 14 days. C, 1 to 4 days. The answer is coming up.
Now back to the Storm Ready Weather Winter Survival Guide.
How long does it take for symptoms to start after COVID exposure? The answer is B, 2 to 14 days. FYI, just thought you might want to know that. That's the incubation period.
Always good information, and we want to, of course, give you what I'm sure everyone has wanted to know. What is this winter going to be like? So we have La Niña, which usually is in right around normal. We have equal chances of above or below normal temperatures. Last two La Niñas have been near to above normal with our temperatures, and the last two La Niñas have been near to above normal with our snowfall. So our official forecast, we're likely going to have near normal temperatures, of course, several days of above or below normal temperatures, but also near to above normal snowfall, and of course, a couple impactful storms.
I'd like a couple of impactful storms and a little bit of above normal snowfall, and I know I'm on the minority.
I'm ready for it.
All right,
let's get it started.
Let's keep it normal.
Keep it normal. Thanks for joining us for our Storm Ready Weather Winter Survival Guide. We hope you have enough information to stay storm ready all winter long.